Centaur, your kind of company.
Tonight on CTV3 News, People's Constitution Committee to commence educational campaign in the North on ending of July. They say 98% of Belize's population is not acquainted with the Constitution. Elmer Nah is back in court for the triple murder in Belmopan on New Year's Eve. And we take you further north where a research on the Mayan history takes place. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Wednesday, July 7th, 2023.
Hottest match of the evening. Get ready for action. Here they come. Amazing. They're unstoppable. Unbeatable. They have him on the ropes. The heat rises to the top. 1, 2, and 3.
They're on fire. Chiladas.
Fire up the taste of Belize with the new Chiladas crunchy tortilla taco chips in its hot chili flavor. Fiery habanero brings the heat.
They're on fire. Chiladas.
From Snackers, done right, done here.
I wanted to show them something that wasn't an illusion. Something that was real. Something that they could see and touch.
Humans and dinosaurs can't coexist. We created an ecological disaster.
Ellie Sattler.
Alan Grant.
You didn't come out all this way just to catch up now, did you?
You coming or what?
That's another plane, right?
Not exactly.
Don't move.
Good evening with your news. Also simulcast on Face FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. In November of last year, the government of Belize officially launched the People's Constitutional Commission, comprising of 23 representatives from a wide cross-section of entities across the country. The commission has been tasked with guiding a complete review of the Constitution of Belize. The commission was given 18 months to consult with Belizeans across the country on the necessary reforms, after which they will then present their findings to GOB in a final report. Following an orientation meeting earlier this year, the PCC has officially begun its public educational meetings aimed at building awareness and understanding of issues related to Belize's constitution and proposals for its reform. The first public meeting was hosted in Belize City, and the Commission is now gearing at hosting its campaign here in the north with a public meeting in Orange Walk Town in late July. With the process already underway today, members of the Commission were on our morning show to share more information about their mandate and strategies for educating the Belizean populace on this very important topic.
There was a lot of the government ministers as such are, I recall, were young people who were activists during the 99-2000 People's Reform, the Political Reform Commission as such. And in its campaign, the current administration, the People's United Party, in its Plan Belize, made it clear that should they be elected as the next government, will undertake to reform the Constitution because of, even though there is not a critical mass of protests, over the years, there's many activists, many individuals, many institutions that have kept saying the Constitution needs to change. There's things that in there do not reflect the best interests of the country. As such, it's time. We're turning 42 this year as a country, and so it's time to reflect as to whether the Constitution properly represents and serves the interests of Belizeans as such. And so the current administration put it as part of its Plan Belize, and when they got into government and were elected into government, they said, well, this is part of our manifesto and this is part of our obligation to the people, so let's do this work as such. No?
Facing the shocking reality that 98% of Belizeans not know the contents of the Constitution, PCC BNTU Representative Ruth Schumann says that there is much that needs to be done at this time.
One of the alarming statistics, I think one of the most alarming statistics that has come out since this has come to the forefront is that about 98% of our population has not even seen the Constitution.
Right.
You know, so we have to change that. And I think what we need Belizeans to understand is that the Constitution is not a document with words that we don't understand. The Constitution is everything from the moment we open our eyes, the moment we say we're going to eat something. There is a law that protects what we eat, how much we pay for it. Right now we're screaming about inflation, price gouging. Where is that coming from? What law, what legislation, where is it? What's ensuring that they're not overcharging me? If there's nothing in the system, what can I do to ensure that it's not happening? What we need to do is to not only educate Belizeans about the Constitution, but have them understand that our mere existence in this country is our Constitution, because everything we say, we do, we eat, wherever we study or do not study, wherever we go, it goes right back to the Constitution. If I'm told I can't move to this area, that's my freedom of movement. If I'm told I cannot attend a school, how many know that education is not a right in our Constitution? And you asked earlier, what are some areas for educators? That's an area of concern. You know, that education is not a right. What would change? What would be different if we do make it a right? You know, how many children are not given the opportunity to attend school? We say we're inclusive. Are we really inclusive if education is not a right? So these are the questions that we need to ask, you know. Let us not disconnect from our Constitution. Our Constitution is our everyday living. If I want to say something and somebody tells me I can't, my freedom of expression, everything goes right back to the Constitution.
One of the main issues raised, according to head of the PCC Secretariat, Assessor Ross, is how to make the Constitution more accessible to every Belizean.
So what we have done is that we have had different experts, different constitutional and legal experts, go through our Constitution. And here with us, we brought examples. This one here, a guide to the Belize Constitution, is one that what they have done is looked at what are the power bases in the Constitution. Who is given power by the different parts of the Constitution. And so this is coded in that area. Know who are the powerful. What are the people powerful? When is the executive? When is the governor general? When is the legislature or any other sector of government. So this codes our constitution in that way, organizes that way. Then we have another booklet, The Fundamental Rights of the People. We are going to change its name to just simply Know Your Rights.
Okay.
And this one breaks down exactly what Ms. Schumann was saying. What are all the rights that are involved? And it also gives us food for thought. What are not in here?
Okay.
Like a fundamental right to education, a fundamental right to health care, are not in here.
Okay.
Right? So should those things be? So this gives us what are they and what are the food for thought when it comes to that as such. No? And so we have that, and then we have this one here that is a even more simplified version of the Constitution.
Okay.
And this will break down our Constitution into 2 volumes. And although we say volumes, and as an educator, when I think volumes, I'm thinking about these big books. This one here is less than 20 pages. And it covers about half of our Constitution in a very layman's language and such. No? And so these are texts that have been produced by the PCC in conjunction with the Secretariat and will be distributed. We are producing them to distribute to the schools, to the public, to all sectors of society. They will be accompanying us throughout our lectures series as such and our consultation with the people as such, right? So this is another approach that we're having.
Important to note of the current ongoing process is that once the 4-month education campaign concludes, the Commission will provide recommendations to the Prime Minister, who will then take it to Cabinet before it is presented to the House of Representatives. A referendum process to poll Belizeans on whether or not they want constitutional reform precedes this.
That not every, as you said, not every recommendation, because we have to make sure that the people as a complete entity, all the people of Belize, are able to endorse on these changes as such. It's not selective to the interests of any specific group, but to the large population as such. No? And so even before we submit a report to the government, we are going to, early next year, draft up a first draft of what that report will have, and we will return to the people with that draft to get there. Does this look at the things that we are interested in? Are there things in here that you feel we still need to consult on as such? No, because we really need buy-in when it comes to this as such, because after it is submitted to the government they will then, if they look at it and see that there are major changes that are recommended, then they are going to recommend that it goes to a referendum.
Right.
And in a referendum, the people will then vote it up or vote it down as such. And so we don't want it to happen like what happened with Chile, where in 2019, overwhelmingly 80% of the population said they want to change their constitution. And when a constitution was presented to them in 2022, they voted it down because there was not that type of going back to them and saying, these are the things we want as such. No, we have to make sure that the people buy into what it is, because we don't want to be one of the next countries that also fails at the referendum and fails at the constitution reform as such.
A public meeting is expected here in Orange Walk on July 21st at a place and time to be announced. Elmer Nah was back in court in Belmopan today. Nah is accused of allegedly killing the Ramirez brothers on New Year's Eve. He also accused of the murder of Vivian Belail, who was also shot on the same night as the Ramirez brothers. Belail succumbed to her wounds approximately 2 weeks after the shooting. After today's proceedings, Arthur Saldivar, attorney representing the families of the deceased, spoke to the media. One of the main takes today was that a special prosecutor has been identified and will be present when Elmer Nah returns to court for full disclosure in August. The rundown of the details is prepared in the following news report.
December 31, 2022 will be a date that the Ramirez and the Belail families from Belmopan will never erase from their minds. It's also a day that Belizean Corporal Elmer Nah will always remember, since he was detained following a double murder of brothers John and David Ramirez. Today, that case continued as Nah appeared in the Belmopan Magistrate Court to answer to the charge of murder for both brothers. Since the entire ordeal was captured on surveillance camera installed at the residence of the Ramnares, police have ever since been reviewing the images. To make matters worse for Nah, he is also accused of the murder of Vivian Belial, who succumbed to her gunshot wounds on January 15, 2023. Belial was shot on the same night as the Ramnares brothers in the same home. Today, as Nah received partial disclosure, the Belial and Ramnares family members and friends stood firm to rally for justice.
We're here this morning because Elmer Nah, who is accused of the triple murder of John, David, and Vivian Ramnares, was brought to court. He was brought to court this morning and he was given partial disclosure by the prosecution. He is scheduled to be back in court on the 22nd of August, 2023, where it is expected that he will be given the full disclosure in relation to the triple murder that he has been implicated in. The understanding is that he was given 20 pages of disclosure and 5 photographs. His attorney was given that. The facts that has been established and made known to the family has been formidable from our point of view. So we are very hopeful that when this matter does come to be heard, that justice would prevail.
The Commissioner of Police had vowed to the nation that there will be no cover in the case as no one is above the law. Today, the lawyer of the family told the media that with new leaders in government, he expects nothing less but the full strength of the law against the accused. However, it is concerning to the family some of the processes that have been taking place, including the transport of Elmer Nah to and from the court.
These are the survivors of that heinous act. They are living with the grief of loss that has come about as a result of what was done on New Year's Eve of 2022. So, in that respect, like anybody in Belize who have suffered this kind of loss, they are seeking justice, as is the entire community of Belmopan, seeking justice and waiting to see if those in authority will ensure that justice be done. There is a Prime Minister now who should certainly be committed to the process of justice, because this is not something that is precedented in this country, and certainly not for this community, which is the capital of our country, where in one singular action, an entire family, save one, is wiped out. A household put under terror to the extent where only a baby survives. So this is something that anybody with a heart, and would hope that our Prime Minister and his ministers have hearts, would actually be committed to ensuring that those under them who has the responsibility to put forward the best prosecution possible do just that.
And as has been the cry of the people and suggestion of those in the high rankings of police, there is a special prosecutor who will be representing the case.
Today, the prosecutor who appeared in court was the head of the prosecution branch, Ms. Alifa Elrington. And my information is that Ms. Elrington informed the court that she would not be the prosecutor in the matter, that the special prosecutor is here. Now, we still don't know who that person is. The family has not been notified, not either directly or through me, who that person is. But suffice it to say that the court is now aware that such a person does exist, and the court is expecting that that person should be there on August 22nd when the matter comes back for full disclosure.
It has been more than 6 months since the heinous triple murder, and for attorney at law Arthur Saldivar, there is a clear-cut conviction based on the facts he has unearthed for the court to find Nah guilty.
Since getting that remit, I have met with the lead investigator, the Commissioner of Police, various members of the police department to get a sense of what is available in terms of statements made and what potential evidence exists to further the prosecution of the case. I want to say clearly that from what I had been made to see, that there is no reason why a conviction should not be expected. Now, I know that many members of the family have had serious concerns, as do I, in the way that Mr. Nah has been treated. It seems to me that they are trying to put a veil of secrecy over his movements, especially as it relates to his movements to and from court. It begs the question of many as to why the authorities are treating Mr. Nah with velvet gloves, even when, from what is in the file, it is clear that there are statements implicating him directly. I have not seen this done with any other accused person, and certainly not with an accused person with the mountain of evidence against him as this. So, what is the prevailing question is, what is it that Mr. Nah may know that is prompting this kind of treatment? In that regard, having an attorney and a prosecutor come to court outside of the presence of the accused to have disclosure partially be made to them and having them leave before that accused appear, just to be able to do a David Copperfield of having him be made to come and go like a wisp in the willow, further reinforces the belief that there are some forces of high authority protecting him.
Dion Pascasio, the family-appointed spokesperson, told the media today the Ramnaresh and Belial families are still reeling from their loss, and the children left behind are yet to accept the reality of living in a different home where mom and dad are always going to be absent.
It has been extremely difficult for the family dealing with this issue. The simple fact that, we have a baby who is left without her parents and having to transition with living with the grandparents and that type of situation through no fault of her own. And that's been the most challenging thing for us to deal with and to watch, and having to be answering questions and see her go through her own challenges and trying to understand and wrap her head around it. Even in playtime, things like these do come up, and so it's been hard on the family in seeing what she is going through, knowing that it's only getting started, and she's so young and it's affecting her. So it's been challenging from that standpoint.
And while the families continue to grieve, they claim Nah is being afforded special preferences, which they describe as an insult to the process of a triple murder in Belmopan.
We are still concerned sometimes about the pace and the rate at which things are going, and concerns about in terms of how the case is being handled and how information is coming to the family or not. The last time when he was brought to Belmopan, family was out there, and the moment the family and I think a couple media personnel left, decided to take a lunch break. It was during the lunch break that he was brought in. So these things are causing us to suspect. And when I did the first interview, when I was asked about how I felt about the police, I made mention that I, as far as I'm concerned, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I have confidence there are still good officers in the force and everything, so I would not give them a bad name. And I still wouldn't give them a bad name, but it is where concerns are being raised now because of the way things have been progressing. Like I said to my family that nothing strange happened from the standpoint that we anticipated, that because of the way things have been operating in the past, that they would probably do the same thing, which was they brought him in about just before 9, in an air-conditioned police pickup with 3 officers in there with him, and he went in and he was in there for about 5-10 minutes and then he left. So whatever happened was swift, but from what we understand, obviously it seems as though he's still getting some very well preferential treatment compared to other prisoners. Right while we're there, another group of prisoners came in, about 4 of them handcuffed in the back of a pickup truck, and jumped out to go into the magistrate's court. So it's like, he is getting preferential treatment, while everybody else is having to ride in the pan of the vehicle and all that type of thing.
Nah is being represented by attorney at law Lyndon Jones. Elmer Cornejo, CTV3 News.
Earlier this week, we told you about the announcement of the Belize Territorial Volunteers of its decision to take up the mantle of maintaining a presence at the forward operating base at the mouth of the Sarsstoon. The decision, according to the BTV, was taken as it has been almost a year that the military have not been occupying the base. In a very swift manner, the BDF today responded to the BTV's announcement, saying it's a bad idea as the area remains volatile and prone to end in conflict with Guatemalan armed forces.
Before we start and delve into the situation of what the Belize Territorial Volunteers are talking about, I would want to go back to and brief about the sensitivity of the area. It's not business as usual in that area. The Guatemalans, they have been claiming that portion, well, the entire Belize, but more so they have been giving a little bit of difficulties in us having access to the Barmouth and to the Sarsstoon River itself. And this is not now, this predates from the early 2000s, or when we started with the confidence building measures, the negotiation of it. So as recent as a month and a half ago, when in one of the excursions conducted by the territorial volunteers, we noticed a change in the attitude of the Guatemalan Navy that is on the other side of the river, and they started trying to deny us access from entering into the river, the Barmouth itself. Nevertheless, we told them that based on the 1859 treaty, we are patrolling what belongs to Belize and no more, which is the deepest navigable channel of the Sarsstoon. And they kept telling us, but about a month and a half ago was the last time that they did that. It is no longer, they are no longer doing it, and in so we have reverted back to kind of controlling the situation, which is more or less the Guatemalans, they start with those type of aggressiveness when someone goes there and agitated, rock the boat per se. And again, the Belize Territorial Volunteers, we are not stopping anybody from visiting Gracias a Dios, but we want them to understand that the area is very sensitive, and whenever someone goes there, it is very easy for either the Guatemalans or them to miscalculate. There is friction, and we could enter into a conflict, and we don't want conflicts, especially in that area.
Despite allegations by the BTV that the area is unmanned, the General Azarel Area of the BDF says that is far from the truth.
The Guatemalans, they have expanded long ago. They have been there before us, and hence there is back in 2015 or 2016, they are about the government at the time provided the direction for us to construct that area. We cited that area where it is because it gives a good observation. It is at the Barmouth, but it has its weaknesses too, that soil erosion is occurring there with the tidal waves. And hence the reason, well, we had it occupied until last year. At the beginning, it was a joint venture with police and the Coast Guard, but then the police left, followed by the Coast Guard, because of they were citing the security hazards that involves living in that forward of observation base. We stayed there until we sought the assistance of the engineers, Mr. Timbrell from Infrastructure Development, if I'm not mistaken, and also some civil engineers like the eminent Cadet Henderson, who went there and declared that the building is unsafe, and hence the reason a decision was made by the Ministry of National Defense to not to live in it. It's not to abandon it, but not to live in it, because we don't want for tidal waves, especially at night, to catch the soldiers off guard, and then we could have a situation on us, people dying there because we didn't listen to the advice of the engineers. We patrol it. We have a standing operation procedure that we are going to patrol it from first light to night, to last light, we call it.
While General Laria says Belizeans will not be stopped from visiting the area after Sarsstoon, the BTV is discouraged from going through with their plan, or authorities will be forced to respond accordingly.
That is a military garrison, it's a military forward observation base. I don't think it belongs to the volunteer, the territorial volunteer element. So we are going to place signs to keep out trespassers and intruders, because that building belongs to the Ministry of National Defense and Border Security, and we have not given authority or permission for anyone else to occupy it.
So there would be arrests?
Well, we are making provisions for it. We have I have provided direction to the battalion commander down in the south, and he is doing the plans accordingly. But I don't want to get into the details. He is the one doing the excruciating details, and he will know what to do when the time comes, if it comes at
what
on that given date where the territorial volunteers so claim that they will go and take it over.
With funding having been approved by the government, General Laria says we can soon expect a brand new military operating base in the Sarsstoon, adequate for 24-hour deployment.
The government of Belize has provided allocated the funds for the reconstruction of a brand new forward observation base in the Sarsstoon. We have gotten the estimates from one building contractor, and we are getting from others. So we're getting the tendering process together and all of that. But that is in place already. We have an estimate from one person. So it took a little time because it is not easy. We were crunched for resources, but now we have the funding. We had the funding, I think that since we got the new fiscal year. Mm-hmm. And we are working towards it.
As we have reported, the BTV is expected to conduct its first patrol in the tomorrow, July 8th. We will just have to wait and see what the outcome of the situation is later this week. Coming up next, research to uncover the rich Mayan history in the north continues. We have the details for you. Stay tuned.
If you're lucky, no matter what life hands you, you can always count on your closest friends to be there.
Oh, thank you. My purse was exhausted. We are all blissfully unaware when our lives are about to change.
Life is full of surprises.
I'm ready to lose my virginity.
Excuse me?
I got the list.
What list?
There's a whole brouhaha at school about this MILF list.
For real?
Our lunchtime fodder is not usually this lowbrow, I swear.
Really? Who have you been eating with?
It's a big step up for Che and me.
I've been having exit out of grief sex. It's just sex.
The world has changed since you've been out there. Men have feelings too.
Life's too short not to try something new. And just like that, I realized some things are better left in the past. But maybe not everything.
Sign up for Smart Share Plan and save big. Whether you're a small entrepreneur starting up your business, a student on a limited budget, or a family trying to save, this is the plan for you. With unlimited SMS, calls, and data, we help you save. Get up to 5 lines for as low as $30 per line monthly, only with Smart. Sign up today at any Smart showroom or sales manager countrywide. So get your business going, share more memories with friends, and be ready for the day with Smart.
In January, we brought you the story of a research project involving the great Maya civilization of the indigenous peoples of northern Belize. The members of Tuan Maserolun, an NGO organization, are supporting the first genetic research project involving living subjects in Mayan communities of northern Belize. The project is entitled A Genomic and Isotopic Analysis of Human Population Histories in Belize. The project is led by anthropologist Dr. Rick Smith, PhD professor of George Mason University, Fairfax, Virginia, USA, and anthropologist Dr. Austin Reynolds, a PhD professor at Baylor University, Texas, USA. The project seeks to utilize DNA from descendants of the Maya of northern Belize who have been continuously living in Belize for thousands of years and up to this present time. Last year, the team arrived in Belize to continue collecting DNA samples.
Partnered closely with To'one Masawaloon in doing this work. Our main interest in this research partnership is knowledge co-creation. That means that we're working together to make sense of the data that we find. DNA can help us learn more about how populations change over time, who's moving in and out, how they're related, and what events in the past might have affected that, and how using DNA to understand or to characterize those past events. And so in terms of outcomes, we're partnering closely with Miss Adela and other members of To'one Masawaloon and members of the individual villages where we're working to make sense of the data. And the point will be large scientific publications, but also we want to return to Belize many times to share our findings first with our participants, our research partners, and To'one Masawaloon, and so forth. So those are the kind of outcomes we're working on. What we've been returning this trip are some of the results from our work with the ancestors who are buried at Choctamal. So part of this project is generating DNA from pieces of teeth, pieces of bone, small pieces of teeth and bone that individuals who were buried at the site of Choctamal, so that we can generate DNA data from the people who lived there in the past and understand how those populations are changing. One of the things that we have learned, there is this idea that Maya people left Choctamal, left the site is now called Santa Rita Corozal, after the Spanish arrived, and that they did not come back. And what our research is showing is that people did return to Choctamal up to 100 years after the Spanish left to bury their ancestors there. And our DNA data shows that they are being buried with their maternal relatives. So they are returning to the spot where their maternal relatives lived before and reinterring Maya people in a site of ceremonial significance at Choctamal long after the Spanish have left. And so this is kind of helping to rewrite the story or add on to the story of Choctamal, Santa Rita Corozal.
A lot of the work that we've done that we have produced results on so far has been working with the ancestors at Choctamal, but we have been working to sample contemporary residents here around Choctamal and around the Corozal region kind of more broadly. So what we have so far, as Ms. Adela had said, is a little over 100 research participants who have decided to join us in creating this work. And we are just starting to look through the DNA data that we've gotten back from the first 57 participants that we were able to collect samples from. So far, that work is currently running on my computer, so I don't have a whole lot I can tell you at the moment, but we do have a handful of individuals for whom we have gotten mitochondrial lineages, so they're kind of mom's information back in time. And what we're seeing is so far every single one of them has aligned with match lines that you tend to see in Maya individuals in the region.
For President of Tuun Massahualun Adela Peterson Vallejos, the research will produce facts and truths untold about the rich history of the once forgotten Maya civilization in northern Belize.
We started this project 6 months ago, where Professor Rick came and he approached me and asked if our organization would support him with this groundbreaking project, which is to study the Yucatec Maya people and comparing them, the contemporary Maya, to the ancient Maya who had lived at Xactemal for over 3,000 years. And of course, for me, that was a brilliant idea because most people in Central America and the world at large, many people don't realize that the Maya still do exist, and that they live in Belize, in the northern part of Belize. So that was one of the main reasons. And then for many other reasons, it's a great project to be involved in.
At the end of the project, the goal is to recover some of the history of the Mayan people of Belize and assist with reconstructing the history of northern Belize over the last 3,000 years. The results of the research will be made available to the public.
That we're returning individual results to everybody. That's our first priority. We want the people who are participating in this and our research partners to see this information first. And when we do that, it will be presented on an individual level, right? In terms of how we make this available to a broader public, the data will be published. What we learn from the data will be published, but it will be anonymized. So no one will be identified in the publications, although the general public will be able to learn about what we've learned about these questions from population history or the history of this region from the DNA data.
The research study has been approved by the Institutional Review Board at George Mason University and will be conducted according to international and locally accepted ethical guidelines for research, namely the Declaration of Helsinki and guidelines provided by the Institute of Archaeology and the National Institute for Culture and History in Belize. The Caribbean Community was established in 1973 upon the signing of the Treaty of Chaguaramas in Trinidad. Presently, there are 20 member states. 16 are fully active, while 5 are associate members. When the treaty was signed, it represented fortitude that it aimed to create a mutual space for territories within CARICOM region to exuberantly work towards economic integration. This week it marks 50 years since the signing of the treaty, and Belizean Dr. Carla Barnett, the Secretary General for CARICOM, spoke on the achievements and the significance it means for CARICOM state as the member states gathered its representatives in Trinidad and Tobago to celebrate the occasion.
The 4 pillars which define our core objectives: economic integration, foreign policy coordination, human and social development, and security cooperation, are central to our regional and national development policies. Our active cadre of community institutions continuously focus on priorities such as education and human resource development, health, agriculture and food security, disaster management and response, climate change, and crime and security. We are an influential voice in international fora on critical matters, and our leaders have played important roles in addressing critical issues such as the dismantling of apartheid. Today, we have a strong voice in the growing global debate on reparations for slavery and native genocide, and discussions on climate injustice and responsibility for damage caused by climate change. As a region, we number among our diverse accomplishments the establishment of the Caribbean Development Bank, the Caribbean Court of Justice, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, the Caribbean Examinations Council, the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV/AIDS, and the Caribbean Public Health Agency.
Present at the celebration of CARICOM at 50 was the outgoing CARICOM chair, Prime Minister Philip Davis from the Bahamas. The Bahamian Prime Minister indicated in his remarks that steps have been made over the past 50 years, which places CARICOM on firm footing to advance towards the next 50 years. Davis emphasized on the fact that CARICOM leaders must place keen attention on addressing crime and crime-related activities in the region and targeted fighting the illegal trade of weapons as one of major attention.
It has been an eventful and fruitful 6 months. Over this period, we have made headway on a number of priority areas. Chief among them, the situation in Haiti, climate change, global financial architecture, food security, and the ongoing crime epidemics in our nations. A significant milestone of my term was the declaration of crime as a public health issue at the Regional Symposium to Address Crime and Violence. I thank the Honorable Keith Rowley and the Government of Trinidad and Tobago for hosting the summit on this critical issue. Crime has become an epidemic in many of our nations, impeding our growth and hampering the happiness and well-being of our people. In our declaration, we not only recognize the urgency and systemic nature of crime in our nations, but also lay the groundwork for the necessary frameworks to build cross-border cooperation, enhance capacity, and enact reforms to ensure the safety and security of our peoples. At this very meeting, we banded together to declare a war on guns. As a region, we proclaim our intention to combat the illegal trade of weapons and particularly to call on the United States of America, the source of the overwhelming majority of illegal firearms in our region, to join us in urgent action to curb this epidemic.
The government of Belize has officially extended the deadline for tender submissions for the role of master agent for the sale of Belize government lottery tickets. The new deadline, set for Friday, July 14, 2023, comes as a crucial update to all interested tenderees eyeing this lucrative opportunity. The lottery games in question include the popular Bolida, Jackpot Lottery, and Ordinary Lottery. Applicants will be expected to manage the comprehensive sales process for these lotteries and must therefore have significant experience in this specialized sector. The submission process entails enclosing all applicants in a sealed package and personally delivering them to the designated address, number 3 Mango Street, City of Belmopan. This can be done during official business hours, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. between the dates of June 28, 2023 and the extended deadline of July 14, 2023. To assist potential applicants, a comprehensive call for application document has been made available for reference on the government's official website. This document provides key insights into the requirements, expectations, and the evaluation criteria that will be used to select the most suitable tenderer. The notice of the extension comes from the Investment Policy and Compliance Unit under the Office of the Prime Minister and Ministry of Investment. They have encouraged all potential tenderers to contact them for more details about the tender and the application process. The contact information is as follows: number 3 Mango Street, City of Belmopan, Cayo District, Belize, Central America. The website is invest.gov.bz and they can be reached by phone number at 880-4728, 880-4729, or by email at belizeinvestment@invest.gov.bz. This extension comes as a golden opportunity for interested parties who may have missed the initial deadline. The government encourages all potential tenderers to make use, that is, of the extension and to submit their applications in a timely manner. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Thursday, July 6th here on CTV3 and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read the text version of the news, you can visit our website at ctv3belizenews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at facebook.com/CTV3 Belize News or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. Remember to wash your hands and remain safe. From all of us here at CTV3 News, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.